Beginning resynchronization.
Hello and welcome to Resync, a podcast where friends talk about games. I'm Sam.
My boy. And I'm your co-host, Chase.
Today we are talking about demos, with Next Fest just recently ending at the time of recording. I've been playing a handful of demos, and it's got me feeling pretty nostalgic about demos. We got demos on the brain.
Old school demo discs especially.
Yeah.
I know, for me especially, demo discs have been on the mind as I have been talking your ear off at work with one fever dream that stands out to me from my youth. Metal Arms Glitch in the System. What is initially just a old school third-person shooter, actually looking at and remembering almost feels like Ratchet and Clank games as a whole.
Oh, wow.
A vast amount of weapons, and you play as a robot rising up against oppressive machine overlords, featuring a wide variety of weapons. Just getting to play the first, I think it was a timed demo of just 10 minutes, was clearly enough for it to burn itself into my head. I know that talking about these with you, I've already stated that demo discs are probably something that not too many people are still like actively aware of. We're getting older, but
Well, there's a lot of people that are our age.
yeah, that's fair. I shouldn't discriminate. We're not that old, but if, like us, you remember demo discs, you'll know just how special they can be with, for me, The Suffering comes to mind. I know I never got to play a demo of it, but the trailer that was included on the demo disc at the time was something that stuck with me. A game about a potential family annihilator going to prison, and that prison that he's at just so happens to have some spooky history, and monsters from executions past begin to rise. The trailer used to show it is half of a person's torso, meant to depict a hanged man dropping down from the ceiling and grabbing the main character, and it would just flash their face, and I haven't forgotten it.
Yeah, there are a lot of games that I feel like me and my brother growing up found from demo disc trailers, one of which being the aforementioned Ratchet and Clank. On one of the demo discs that we got, it was PlayStation Magazine issue 62, came out in November 2002. It had Sly Cooper, the first Sly Cooper demo on it, and one of the like video features was the Ratchet and Clank trailer, and I'm almost 100% certain that's where me and Jake heard about Ratchet and Clank from. So that's a point I hadn't thought of, is like the trailers on the demo discs, how it's like really effective marketing.
Yeah.
Especially if you have, like, me and my brother didn't have a lot of games at the start of the PlayStation 2, and then my dad had PlayStation Magazine, and we would just play demos for so much of the time that we played games, and then find the games that we did want on the demos, like Ratchet and Clank. And we already knew about Tony Hawk, but Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 trailer was also on issue 62. But yeah. So you said that you played Metal Arms very briefly?
Yeah, it was one of common, a timed demo. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
it was always one of those things. I would replay it over and over and try and clear the sections faster. So they're like, oh, I'm going to see more. I'm going to see more.
Yeah.
But, inevitably you're only going to see as much as they want you to.
Yeah, I never heard of Metal Arms, but maybe we'll do a little exploration of old demos.
Oh, absolutely.
I had one that was also a timed demo. This is not actually the one that stuck out first for me, but there was a game called MX Superfly.
MX Superfly.
It was motocross games were like crazy popular back then.
Okay, seeing the cover art, I definitely played that.
Yeah, the demo was I think it was like 30 minutes or 45 minutes or something. It was a timed demo of what I think these games called freestyle mode. So it was like free roam, and you would just ride around on a motorcycle and like do jumps and stuff. And there was this area where it was like an old rusted out building in the desert, and it had a big fence around it. And to get into it, you would have to jump through a specific spot in the fence. So you'd have to do like a pretty tough jump to get into this fenced in area. And I remember it would always be like, you'd have to like go there, and I would have to find it every time, and that would take time away from the demo. And then I would have to make that jump, and that would take time away from the demo. And then it was always like, how far into this rusted out complex can I explore with the time I have remaining after successfully getting there and successfully making the jump? So those are always those funny things that you like. They kept you engrossed in the games, even though it was just a 30-minute demo or whatever. But one of the games that kept me and my brother very, very entertained for a long, long time was the demo for Downhill Domination, which is another game with bikes, but this time not motorized. And you're just mountain biking downhill. So it's a mountain biking racing game where you would race downhill, as the title says. But you could like knock people. You could like kick them as you pass them. The crashes were always fun, at least as far as I remember. This is like,
Through the lens of nostalgia.
yeah, like 24 years ago. But it was really fun. You could definitely sink a lot of time into it. That one wasn't timed, if I remember correctly. And even if it was, all the races were pretty short. So like, you'd just race and race and race, and it was a multiplayer demo. So we really got some mileage out of that one.
That's something I feel like you don't really see a lot of nowadays. Multiplayer, like,
Yeah.
I mean, especially for back in the day, that multiplayer not being an online, have a friend join you, it being couch co-op.
Oh yeah. Now you have to have like servers and shit.
Can't be so simple anymore.
Yeah.
Well, so let's talk about this. So, a special feature in my heart for demo discs is I feel like demo discs back in the day, while things have definitely taken drastic changes with the gaming industry, games are far more expensive now to make. But back then with demo discs, you would get things like Tomb Raider was on demo discs. All sorts of, Tony Hawk games were on demo disc. There are a large number of what would be considered now studios that would be AAA that maybe when they were first starting out, when demo discs were first a fresh thing, the industry wasn't quite as developed as it is now. And so I find it interesting the way we used to receive demos of these main title experiences, things like Crash Bandicoot were on demo discs, Sly Cooper, which has now become, like, for many people, a staple of PlayStation. Whereas looking at more recent expanses into the industry, you won't see AAA games having those.
Yeah.
So, do you think that part of what made demo discs so special was that the quality that you were getting with it was also almost like assured to be there within like the reason of the time?
Oh, yeah. I feel like back then, if you're a studio, you're only getting somebody to make demo discs for you if you have a true, clear vision of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or like not even that. I mean, I'm sure there's still like some jank as hell demos, but like there were a lot of jank as hell games too.
Yeah.
But you had to have most of a product like ready to go. At least I feel like. I don't know.
See, it's interesting that you bring that up because it does tie into a subject that I am hoping to get into soon, but I would like to save for a little while longer because I think that we can do it a little bit more justice. But tangentially related is cost has definitely been a major standing point with demo discs. So I think you're right in saying that you weren't going to give a game a demo unless you were certain that that demo was going to bring sales with it.
It's a very marketing focused tool to have demo discs for sure. I definitely want to circle back and talk about just some more of the different demos that we played on these demo discs.
Yeah.
So you had one stick out. Metal Arms stuck out to you. You remember that really well. Downhill Domination, I sunk so much time into. There were other ones that, like you said, a lot of the time you didn't get to sink much time into these, but they would leave such an impression. And one of the ones that I remember leaving an impression on me was Genji Dawn of the Samurai. The demo for it was fairly short. I think you like went through a level and fought a boss and maybe a little bit more after that. But, you know, I had never played like what I assume is probably a hack and slash game back then. I don't remember exactly what Genji was like. I just remember it was probably the closest thing to like a role-playing game I had played at that point.
Yeah.
Running around, killing enemies, and then getting gear, and then like fighting a boss. And it's so funny because I have such vague memories of Genji, but I also remember being so into it when I was playing it because it was also like there was an element of like I didn't think I was allowed to play it.
Oh, the tabooness of playing a game out of your range.
I was like, my mom can't see me playing Genji because I'm like slashing enemies in half in this game. And I remember like one time my dad saw me playing it and was like, "Oh, is that on one of those demo discs?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's super cool." And he was like, "Yeah, just make sure your mom doesn't see it." So there was like that element with that one. And I never ended up playing the full game of Genji, Dawn of the Samurai, because I think of that element of like it wasn't a game that I would probably be able to clear with my mom. But it was probably one of the first things that introduced me to that genre of like samurais and that kind of thing. There were a few other ones. I don't know if any others stuck out to you.
Well, I was going to ask you, I was never like very big into racing games. Car games aren't necessarily my cup of tea, but one does definitely stand out. Again, demo discs and the impact they have. Did you ever play Destruction Derby?
I don't think I ever did. I don't even know if I know what that is.
I would love to do some more research and find out that I am incorrect in the statement that I'm about to make, but I don't think I've ever really seen, besides maybe the old Monster Truck games, a vehicular combat game that was based within, like, reality, done since this. But it was exactly what it sounds like, Destruction Derby. It was a car-based arena game.
Whoa.
Where you would select your vehicle, just like in any racing game. Different cars would have different stats, and you would spend your time driving around attempting to pit and take out the other vehicles in just these spectacular crashes. And
That sounds sick.
it was. That'll have to be another one that maybe we do some extracurricular homework and reassess and talk about again in the future, because that still stands out to me as somebody who, again, not much into vehicular based games, but Twisted Metal.
I was about to say.
Yes.
That sounds like Twisted Metal without guns.
Yeah. And it scratched the itch of vehicle combat, but grounded enough of watching a car dent and like slam into walls. Just something so satisfying about the gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember like seeing that kind of stuff for the first time, like in-game models with like reactive mesh, and you could like see the damage start to pile up on your car or whatever. I remember seeing that a lot and being like, I just want to see how it crashes. Like Burnout.
Oh,
Did you ever play
man.
Burnout?
I not much into the car games, but I definitely had friends that played Burnout and used to talk it up.
Yeah. I don't think I ever had a demo for Burnout, but my friend did. One of my neighbors had, I think, Burnout 3 Revenge or some variation of Burnout on a demo disc. And just that game's literally just about crashing and making the biggest pile up or mess you can. It's like Skate's Hall of Meat, but for cars.
I was just about to chime in that it sounds like all of this was a predecessor in some
Oh,
way.
I'm sure it had to influence that because it was just so fun to cause chaos. Like shit would get crazy, things would start blowing up, and like chain reactions would happen. And it was just that was I remember that being like a sleepover game too.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of demos that I never ended up seeing the full game, like I said. And another one of them, unless you have more to say on.
No, absolutely. Go ahead.
Another one of them was called Dual Hearts, and it was you'd like go into people's dreams and fight. Like, I don't know if I fully understood what was going on when I played it, but all I know is you would run around in some kind of hub world, and there were a bunch of different characters, and you would run up to these characters, you'd talk to them, and then you could enter their dreams and like fight their nightmares or something crazy like that.
Interesting.
And that could be a fully incorrect that could be a fully incorrect synopsis of Dual Hearts, but that's like what I remember of it was it felt like you were like entering their psyche or something.
Yeah, I wonder who or what studio was behind that, because if you throw in life sim like dating, then it almost sounds like an early iteration of like Persona.
I think so it was Atlas.
Yep.
Yeah.
So very,
Atlas,
very likely
definitely.
ties into the Persona universe where it is. I don't know. Have you played any of the Persona games?
I have not.
It is so speaking truthfully, my experience with Persona starts and ends with Persona 5, but it is very much built around like going into almost like a dream world and fighting people's like dark desires that are corrupting their hearts. And by defeating it, you then set them free and or in many cases bring them to justice, depending on just how bad their depraved side was.
Yeah, I feel like that was definitely kind of the vibe in Dual Hearts, but like I said, I didn't really play more than this demo, and it could have even not had English subtitles.
That very well could be the case.
It's possible that like the reason I don't really remember what the hell was going on is because I was skipping through a bunch of Japanese because I was just like, this game looks cool and it's fun, but I don't know what's going on.
I don't read kanji, unfortunately.
And it was, yeah, it's one of those things that like every once in a while I'll like remember it and I'll be like, man, what went on in that game? But it was definitely like, it's kind of like Zelda.
Okay.
Like, you'd like go into these, I guess just like if you compare, and I haven't really played Zelda other than Breath of the Wild, but like if you compare going into the dreams or psyches of these people in this hub world to like the temples in Zelda,
dungeons
in Zelda, you'd like go in and you'd like solve a few puzzles and then you'd fight a boss.
Yeah. Okay.
And
yeah.
it was that kind of layout and vibe.
Okay. Yeah, for those listening, looking at some reference photos of the game at the moment.
Yeah. It's one that I don't think, at least I don't think I saw much of it in the US. I don't know how it was received in Japan or anything, but I think Zelda was probably just doing better
Yeah.
in that sphere.
Well, which is interesting because I know for certain with Persona 5, and I do believe with most of the prior Persona releases, which are also tied into another series by Atlas, I believe, they have all been done in more in the style of like classic JRPGs, party setup and turn-based combat. So I'm very curious. That's definitely one that merits some inspection.
Yeah, I would love to go back and like see what that game was actually all about.
Absolutely.
Just because like aesthetically, I remember it being so intriguing to me as a kid.
Yeah.
I think art-wise, it kind of makes me think of like what if Final Fantasy but Persona
Okay.
maybe or
Yeah.
like what if instead of Kingdom Hearts they did like Persona Zelda. I don't know. Well, and these are also a bunch of games I am not super familiar with, so making comparisons to them could be very incorrect. But
Right. But going off of what we can remember
in art
from our limited
styles,
experience.
art styles and stuff mainly. But yeah, there was a lot of times where I was like wishing that I could play more of that game, or at least know more about what was going on.
Well, and that being published by Atlas is certainly one of those things. I mean, wrapping back to what I had said before of, you had these studios that, looking now, if you were able to see the future, you'd say, I mean, these are well established creators, and you really don't see the same type of accessibility and interactivity to promote their games as you did years ago.
Yeah, demos on that scale. You're not really getting demos of like big games as often. It's very,
Right.
very rare, I feel like.
Unless you're going to conventions and shows,
Yeah.
you're really not getting that that opportunity
That
to get a
hands-on look.
hands-on. Yeah, exactly.
And parroting kind of like that notion of accessibility that demos gave games back in the day. I feel like one of the reasons that is the case with AAA now is that you're like inundated with all the information you could ask for about these games. You know what I mean? So like AAA people don't have to worry about making demos because they just show you a bunch of hype trailers.
Yeah, trailers that typically aren't even actually gameplay.
Yeah, for sure. But, those older builds that we would be seeing in demos in the past are now just being shown as gameplay trailers.
Right, or in sadly some cases, Bethesda just releases you the demo version and slowly patches it into the full experience.
Yeah. But, there's some charm in that jank. I love some of that jank.
Oh yeah, I have some nostalgia for it, but as they've developed and gotten more quote-unquote experience, you hope for a little bit more.
Yeah. There was one demo that I remember really thinking it was cool, but just never getting to play the full game of. And I honestly don't have that much knowledge about this game, but Dr. Muto, the demo for Dr. Muto, I think it was just like a level of the game. I don't think it was time gated. And you would just like run through this level and you'd be introduced to a couple of the mechanics that were in the game, and then the demo would end. And I was like, oh, that's weird and cool. What is that? And I never got to play it, but I remember that being another one that sticks out as, a kernel of nostalgic memory.
I can definitely elucidate on that a little bit. I actually got to play it. I didn't beat it, but I did play for a while, and the best way that I could describe it would be if did you ever play Altered Beast?
No.
So, key feature of that game is your character unlocks multiple different forms, but he is able to shapeshift between varying monsters and use them in combat scenarios and things like that. I think there's some light puzzle mechanics.
Oh, that just unlocked a memory about Dr. Muto. Do you turn into a rat in that game?
So Dr. Muto has quite a few forms that you can take, including I do believe it's a gorilla, a rat. There's a spider form.
Okay.
I can't recall it, but I do believe there is some sort of flight form variation. But best description would be if Altered Beast, instead of being I believe Altered Beast was a survival horror, it would be Altered Beast becomes a platformer.
Okay, yeah.
Using these varying forms to solve puzzles, very much a younger targeted audience, but still like taking consideration into like, they still expected a little bit of like know-how from you. It wasn't just like a like hold your hand experience.
Yeah, I definitely remember the rat form from the Muto the demo for Muto. Like just running around in a little sewer pipe or something as a rat.
Yeah, so I believe then the demo was probably of like the first introductory level, and now talking about it more and more, it's crazy the way these things come back. Yeah, I believe it had like a semi like open-ish little hub. Like between missions, you would actually go to like Dr. Muto's like evil lab and get a run around there for a little bit, like just exploring.
Kind of like Crash.
Yeah.
Like the hub world in Crash Bandicoot Wrath of Cortex. Wrath of Cortex. Oh, dude. The art style for Dr. Muto kind of is pretty similar to Crash, actually.
You say, well, funny. It's funny that's where your head goes to, because that is a much more artistic design, like fits the like description and like style of Muto. My head went to Tomb Raider, Exploring the Mansion.
Oh, I never played that.
No?
No.
Man.
There was a very few, that's just how it is when you're a kid. Like now we play most of the popular games that come out, but as a kid, it was like whatever we got our hands on, I was playing that for the next year.
Oh, yeah.
So, but one that makes me think of is the Sly Cooper demo. Like you were saying, Muto, the demo sounded like it was just the first level. I believe the demo for Sly Cooper, the Thievius Raccoonus, was just like the first little part when Sly is going and stealing his file from Carmelita Fox's office, and then you like escape into the van. And I'm pretty sure that was the whole demo, and I played it so much that in my head I was like, I'm a Sly Cooper fan. But then like, as I grew up, I was like, I never played those games.
Demo was enough. That was it.
It's actually only recently that I played the first Sly Cooper game, and I haven't beat it yet, but I've made it to the last, I guess, world, you would call it. And I think it definitely like holds up, as I had a good time playing it. It wasn't something I felt like I was slogging through.
Yeah, not just going through it to say you've experienced Sly Cooper.
No, yeah, I was enjoying it. Sly Cooper definitely stands out as like a game that still feels fun and like is not just nostalgia. Going back and playing it, I played through the first level and I was like done with it in like 2 minutes. And I was like, that was the whole demo that I played as a kid? Because I was like, I don't have access to the demo, obviously, but I was sitting and playing it and I got through that first little intro level and I was like, oh, I don't remember anything after this. So it was like crazy to me that in my head I was a Sly Cooper fan, but I played literally just the smallest snippet. But I definitely think it's a fun game for sure. I mean, obviously a lot of people enjoy that franchise, and a lot of people wish that more Sly Cooper games would be made.
Count me up there. So with you saying that you definitely think that Sly Cooper holds up, and saying that even with it just being like such a short demo that you still enjoyed it so much, what do you think it takes for you to qualify a demo as a good experience?
I feel like if you can show me what the game is about in that small of a chunk, like in Sly Cooper, how you played a little 2-minute level or whatever, and that was enough to like make me think, yeah, I like Sly Cooper. That kind of ability to hook you in with such a small slice of the game is, I don't know exactly what made it a good demo, but you have to be able to catch people. Like if you can introduce the general vibe of your game in a very small slice and get people interested like that, I think that makes a really good demo. And I think showing how even just one level can be fun enough for you to want to replay it.
No, I'd say I agree with you because, I mean, just like you saying Sly Cooper, very short, grabbed you, is just like my experience with Metal Arms, is 10 minutes. Not
Yeah.
even like, I definitely never got even probably halfway through that game
Oh,
because
yeah.
I would get so caught up in they had a weapon. And now looking back, I always thought it was like you were shooting like slime, but it was probably their graphical rendering for like a cable being shot out of where you could take over enemy bots and control and pilot them to do things. And I think that is probably why it stuck with me the way that it did. I mean, it was such a unique mechanic, especially for the time,
Yeah.
that like, oh, I spent the majority of my time just seeing who all I could affect with that weapon.
Yeah.
And not even like really focusing on necessarily, oh, I'm going to make it to the end of the level this
Yeah.
time, so much as, oh, there's so much for me to experiment,
Yeah.
and leaving so many questions that obviously you're not going to get answers for unless you play the full release.
Yeah, if you can hook people in with just like the gameplay enough that they're experimenting with what they can do, not worrying about the objective, but just like playing in that space and like playing with your mechanics that you've come up with. If those are fun enough to just like keep people focused on it, I feel like that's what makes a good demo. It's the elevator pitch of your game realized into a interactive media, which, you know, we might be just describing what a demo is.
Well, and you had brought up earlier, and I said that I wanted to get into it, but I wanted to save it, is at the very beginning of this, we kind of talked about how, financially viable, like, it takes a studio like Atlas back then releasing a demo. So the sad news that in my brief study on the history of demo discs was sadly digital marketplaces through things like the Xbox store or the PlayStation store ultimately heavily contributed to the downfall of the demo disc, as well as companies deciding that it was more financially responsible to use their budget for marketing on trailers
Yeah.
instead of these discs.
Yeah, that accessibility with the rise of always having all of the information about a game and its development on your fingertips. Using trailers to market your game, I'm sure, became much cheaper than like getting, loads of demo discs printed and sent out.
Yeah, having to program a small subset section to then having
Yeah.
a playable state. But it's things like reading that really brings my attention to, quite honestly, a flaw with current marketing standards for video games. Just this past year, we saw probably the largest AAA flop ever in Concord.
Oh, yeah.
And
Dead on arrival.
leading up to Concord, I saw 0 trailers for it. I saw nothing. There was like not even ads of people trying to shill excitement for the game. It was dead silence as far as the spaces that I'm in. And I try to follow gaming news pretty heavily. So
Yeah.
besides a couple of articles talking about how expensive the creation of Concord was, I could not tell you a single thing about it.
I literally only heard about Concord when it was being canceled. Like I saw the trailer and then I was like, oh, that looks fine, I guess. And then maybe minutes later I was like, oh, it got canceled. That's weird. And then I only then read into like how expensive and that it was going to be a live service. Only after I had heard it was canceled did I find out anything about the game.
Yeah, and like things like that lead me to believe that the concept of, well, it's more financially viable to stick with just putting out trailers for things that, well, we have this team behind this, we have this much money behind this, it's going to succeed, too big to fail mentality.
Yeah.
I think that
They forget that they actually have to market.
exactly. They forget that, I mean, you still have to have some form of connection with your base that you are seeking to sell this product to.
Yeah. You can't just say, "Oh, we're Sony. We're making this game. People are going to play it." And then when 20 people play the game in the first 3 days or whatever, you shoot it in the head. You take it out back.
Well, and especially it's interesting to see such an expensive project shelved so quickly rather than having the time spent to take in feedback and try and correct.
Yeah. Well, and with that, like with live service games, it's a whole different can of worms we can get into on a different during a different conversation sometime. But like with that one, the cost of them waiting for that, I guess, was just too much to bear after they spent so much on it.
Well, and I guess this is a good way to transition to another talking point. As we have witnessed large studios pulling back from the demo model, we have seen studios leaning into beta programs.
Beta and early access
And I think to a degree that has become our new norm for demos, which is sad in my opinion, just due to the limited nature of betas versus demo discs. Back in the day, we've talked about heavily, like we would replay sections over and over and over again.
Well, and they would keep us entertained while they worked on the game in the background. We wouldn't have to worry about, like, a problem that I have with early access games is that I will buy an early access game, I will play it to my heart's content, I'll have a great time, and then I will be like, all right, I'm done with this game. And then however many years later it comes out, I don't even think to buy it in its full release form and play it. Or, I mean, I already own it at that point, but like even then I won't re-download it to play it because I'm like, oh, I already played like 30 hours of that. I'm good.
Yeah. It goes to state that the limited access to the like full content experience is very important in terms of retention.
Yeah, like keeping it behind a door so that people are still like, ooh, I want to go behind that door.
Right. Whereas, like, so many early access games will give you the skeleton with a way to a sort of end game experience.
Well, and that's like even a smaller percentage of those early access games.
Yeah.
But like you get to see the vision, just not fully realized yet. So like you're like, oh, this game has a lot of potential. I'm going to play it. And then, like you said, the door is open, but the room that's behind the door isn't fully built yet. You're playing with a version of the game that you might not have seen otherwise. I don't know. I feel like that point doesn't make much sense. But.
No, well, it does in the sense of also with demos, you knew the demo was exactly like the game.
Yeah, because it was the marketing tool.
Right. Whereas you have games like I, for one, bought into, and this is by no means a detraction of it, 7 Days to Die, which has just recently, within the past, I want to say 2 years, with reference being that early access for this started, I think, nearly a decade ago at this point.
That's a survival
craft zombie.
Game. Yeah.
And within the last 2 or 3 years, they have started the actual, like, now it's really upscaling in its like scope, and graphics have been enhanced. Whole systems for like perks have been changed, removed, replaced. And so you end up with, let's say you started out, like you said, you bought it in early access, you played it as it was, you put it down, and now that it is potentially receiving those like updates that were promised, it may be an entirely different game.
Yeah.
And like to a degree, that should be, in my opinion, a little bit scarier in terms of I've already given my money for a product that now could be nothing like what I purchased.
Something completely removed from what you thought you were buying. With that, in terms of marketing there, it's a question of, is early access can be really good.
Absolutely.
Let's at least state that, because there are games that I've played in early access that I'm like, oh, this is sick, and then it turns out that it is a good game.
Yeah.
And in a lot of the cases, even the ones where I end up dropping it before the full release comes out, that can be true. But I feel like in those situations where if a studio makes a splash when they release their early access and they get a lot of eyes on it and you have a lot of people playing the early access, that starts to dwindle. And other than this core group of people who are going to stick with it, you lose a lot of those people who may have otherwise played the full release because they played an unfinished product. And like, what is that? Is that better? Because like, I understand early access is like, oh, we're making this game, we have something we can have people play, but we need money and we need to sell this unfinished product so we can finish the product. And I understand that, and I think Steam started that with the greenlight process, where when the greenlight process used to be a lot more like pick and choose, like not everybody was able to upload their early access.
Right, very restrictive compared to what we see now.
It was like it was way more like competitive to get your game greenlit.
You needed far more community support around your game.
And now with early access just being, as far as I understand, just a tick box, you put your game in early access and you can do all the normal things you need to do to upload your game to Steam and get people playing it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like, it's hard because I see its value, but I'm like, sometimes it takes the wind out of my sails for a game.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I think a perfect example of early access done right would probably be Baldur's Gate as of recent.
Yeah.
Like they had a substantial amount playable. Mm-hmm. But
like all of Act 1, basically.
Yeah, but not nearly enough for it to like impact your ability to like want to play the game.
Yeah.
They didn't give you enough for you to think, okay, I've had my fill.
Yeah, there was always that moment where you would run into the message like, this is not accessible in the early access or the beta or whatever they called it. And you know, I would run into that and I'd be like, all right, I guess I got to make a new character and start over.
Yep. And because that leaves you with that hunger for, like, whoa, what comes next?
Yeah.
I've invested this much time. Like, I've got to come back.
Yeah.
It's like a good cliffhanger on a TV show.
Yeah. Well, and with Baldur's Gate 3 especially, like I remember after the game fully released, I played through Act 1 in a way I'd never played through Act 1. Even when I put like 60 hours into the beta. I put a lot of time into that. So I thought I had explored quite a lot of what it had to offer, and then had a fully different experience when I did end up playing it in full release. So that's a definite like successful way to use early access or beta, but that's not always the case.
Right. Also works as a pretty decent example of changing your game from the beta version without taking away from what it was.
Yeah. They
So,
had
like,
a
the
defined
Nautiloid.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, yeah. Beta, for those of you that didn't play the Baldur's Gate beta, the Nautiloid, you had multiple tiers after you initially found Lae'zel that you would rise, like climbing around like the outside of the ship. Whereas now in the actual game, it's been much more condensed, I would say.
Yeah. Which I think, as somebody who played so much of the beta of Baldur's Gate 3, I ended up really appreciating, because I put a lot of time into replaying what was available. So when it was condensed, I was like, oh, sweet.
Yeah.
Not as much of a time sink at the beginning of stuff I've seen already. But jumping back to the greenlight process, I feel like that was kind of the spark that would eventually, it became the early access function of Steam. And I feel like with that, Steam also started to slowly see more and more game demos reappear. And, you know, earlier I had brought up Next Fest was like the catalyst for me, like rediscovering my nostalgia for demos. And I feel like I think it's a positive thing to see, the shifting of the games industry back towards those more tactile experiences of marketing. Because personally, for me, if I play a demo, and like we said, if a game can hook me in with a small little bite-sized piece of what they have to offer, I'm like 75 to 80% more likely to buy it.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it gives you, what demos do that sadly more and more it's you wish that AAA studios would give you demos is it gives you the ability to find out, do you even like it?
Oh yeah.
Do you even have an interest in what it has to offer? Like, does the control scheme make you angry? Like,
Yep.
it gives you the ability to actually determine if this is worth your money. And that is something that customers deserve to have.
Oh yeah, totally.
I'd just like to add to the conversation on the resurgence of demos coming up through Steam, is that indie devs are really the ones pushing the return of the demo.
Yeah.
You're still really not seeing any of these major studios coming out with like decent experiences to test a game before fully committing to it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it's like with indie devs, you don't have the budget that these AAA studios have, and the AAA studios can do all the marketing that they want, or, sometimes confusingly, none of the marketing that they should. But with demos, it's such a good tool for smaller teams that don't have access to that marketing ability to grab their audience.
Yeah, well, and also speaks to how impressive it is that in many cases, these indie studios being very small or in some cases single person teams that are still able to put out demos and put in that extra work, whereas these AAA studios with hundreds of employees are unable to or unwilling to dedicate a little bit of that time to.
It's not on their radar as a worthwhile investment of resources, which I think, I don't know, I'm seeing the games industry is definitely shifting back towards like that kind of mentality of like giving, well, at least in the indie scene, of giving people a hands-on look. There's so many indie demos. I play way more indie than I do AAA at this point. And I think it's a testament to the care that indie teams give towards player experience, or like at least like the thought towards the players as more than just, the next paycheck that they're going to get from their game that they're pumping out. I feel like that mentality definitely comes across as AAA's mindset is more of like, we're selling a product, give us your money. And indie feels a lot more like, check out our cool game, and like, if you like it, please support us.
Yeah, very much. Hey, look at this cool thing I made. Do you like it?
Do you like it? Do you like it? It's going to come out in like a year,
but I promise it will.
Yeah. Or maybe it won't, but there is one game that does have a demo that stuck out to me as what I consider to be like my new gold standard for a demo. And that is the Big Catch Tackle Box. This demo was released June 7th, 2024, and it is incredible, in my opinion. It's an open-world 3D action platformer, and you play as this little bird guy with a fishing pole, and you go around, and you catch these fish that are in random weird places around this, frankly, insanely huge open world for a demo, and you collect coins. It's a collect-a-thon 3D platformer, and it's got some of the smoothest movement. It's got like kind of a decent learning curve. It's kind of tough to get into, but once you do, the movement feels so slick. It's so freaking cool. And you can pull off some insane game-breaking move combinations that send you flying across the desert at like Mach 5. Like you can B-hop and just continuously like keep your momentum. You use your fishing rod for a lot of your movement. And you can use it as like a kind of, you can like slingshot yourself with it. You can use it as a little grappling hook that you can swing on. And you start out in this tutorial area where you have all these signs that kind of tell you the controls. And there are all these little spots around this area that you can learn how to do those specific moves. And then in order to access the rest of the demo, you have to use all the skills you've learned to climb out of this tutorial area and enter the rest of the map, which is just this expansive desert. And in the desert, there are all these, it's almost like levels that are separated by an open world. And so you can like see different things that you're like, oh, there's a big structure over there. And you can like go into the desert and you can like use your fishing rod to cast out and catch like a little sandworm and use it to like skim across the sand.
Interesting.
to traverse to the different points of interest. And you have this little compass, and like it's one of the reasons that I became so nostalgic for demos was this demo, because, or not became, but like was reminded of all that nostalgia for demos, is because the art style is like PlayStation 2, like as hell. It's got like a CRT filter. It's like you know, that Sly Cooper aesthetic of like very stylized character art, but it's definitely what I would consider like a gold standard, in my opinion, for demos now. I think that's why this game, the Big Catch Tackle Box demo rather, is going to be my first assignment for you as gamer homework. I'm going to be asking you to, you know, between our recordings, check it out and report back to see what you think about it, and then we can talk a little bit more about that game.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it's certainly an experience that you enjoyed. And if that was something that made you rethink of these old demos that are so ingrained in us already, I'd say it's definitely worth checking out.
Hell yeah, dude.
Well, I'll throw a counter at you. So you've assigned me some homework that ties directly back into our conversation today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw some homework your way that I hope makes you think about some future topics for us. And my homework for you is going to be Cruelty Squad.
Cruelty Squad.
Cruelty Squad is a game that most people might describe as an anti-game. It is not necessarily designed to be a comfortable playing experience.
Okay.
Your reload is tied directly to one of your mouse buttons, and you must hold it and scroll your mouse down in order to complete the action. So that is just one of the many quirks this game has that I will go ahead and drop for you. But this game, despite having a very retro appearance itself,
Mm-hmm.
the models being very, very simple, somehow manages to wrap together so many strange mechanics and interesting design choices that when I played it, I could not help but keep going. It just sucked me in with how strange and phantasmagorical the world is, and just the things that you will unlock and experience. I think that's some required reading for the course.
All right. So we have our assignments. You've got the Big Catch Tackle Box, and you've given me
Cruelty Squad.
Cruelty Squad. I'll have to check that out. Well, my boy, I think that has been this episode of Resync. If you made it to the end, thank you for listening. If you like what you heard, you can follow us at ResyncCast on Blue Sky, ResyncCast on Blue Sky. And you can find Resync on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Goodbye.
Bye. Synchronization complete.